So you're Karen?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm Jan Gold.
Hi. Okay. It's okay. I'm the sports supervisor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought it was a very good start. Oh, I know about that. I'm gonna come and talk about it later. That's what I thought I'd like to know.
Yeah, he was very man. He would got shot in the shoulder. That week is this one doesn't.
Hey guys.
Hello.
How are you?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good. Al over there. Little musket. Or you're come back to Mary.
Oh, these are the parks.
Are we going to co-mingle?
Bruce and Jared. Yeah.
Are we going to co-mingle?
I'm Rob Livick, Public Works
Yeah,
Director.
you're public. Okay.
So this is a joint meeting of the Public Works Advisory Board and Recreation Parks Commission. Unfortunately, I guess we don't have a quorum of the Recreation and Parks Commission. We only have 3 members. So we'll not be calling that commission to order. I'll pass it over to the chair in just a second of the Public Works Advisory Board. Call that meeting to order. We'll ask for public comment. I would guess that we're not going to get any, but we'll still do that. And then we'll refrain from discussion in between the stops, because everybody can't participate. And then when we stop, we can ask questions and have a complete discussion, and it can be filmed on for rebroadcast at a later time. So this is not live, so this will be shown on AGP at some regularly scheduled hour, I'm assuming.
Cool.
So I'm going to turn it over to our chair, Marlis McPherson, to call the Public Works Advisory Board to order.
We will call this special meeting of a joint meeting between the Public Works Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation Board to order. It is a little after 4:30 on July 13th, and we are on the trolley. And our special meeting is going to involve touring many of our sites that we all oversee in our responsibilities. So I will ask if there's any member of the public that would care to comment, or if there's any announcements from any of the participants. Otherwise, we will proceed. Here, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment.
Thank you.
And get moving.
Yes, our first stop is we're going to go down to the Rock parking lot, take a look at the restroom facility, and then where our outfall for our desal plant is. Then start bringing our way back through town. We'll drive by our desalination wells, and I'll point those out to folks. But there's really nothing to see if we were to stop at them. So I'll just point those out as we go by. Then I think our next real stop is at Anchor Park, and then we can talk about really if you have any questions about the desal wells or any other things that we're on our journey here. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, this is our first stop on our journey here. Let me get kind of. Is this working? This is a restroom that the city reconstructed in the early 2000s. Had an increased usage, so we've had to increase maintenance on this restroom facility. We've recently reactivated the outside rinse-off station. Now it's point off, and it's become popular again. Folks do like to rinse off after they've been out with a little session out in the water, so we have that available to us. And then the parking lot gets used for a multitude of things, from just your everyday parking to visit the beach to staging areas for all kinds of events, which Karen's going to talk a little bit about.
It's home to a lot of different events. This past weekend we had our annual Rock to Pier Run. We had over 1,000 participants, plus all their family, friends, etc. here. It's also home to Miracle Miles, the Morro Bay Triathlon, which is in November. They'll be coming. We've had multiple surf contests, the kite festival, the movie night. Our junior lifeguard program meets here during the summer, along with our beach camps. And we have lots of weddings out on the beach. So lots of permits for those, as well as film permits. We've had several commercials filmed here, and I believe we've got a couple of film permits sitting ready to be put into effect. We also have a big group that's going to have a retreat for their business, and they're going to come and have a big party soiree on the beach. So we do work with vendors. We have a couple of vendors that help facilitate permits for all that, but the permits are done through the city. All these other events, except for the movie night and JG's and the Rock to Pier Run, are all outside people coming in and reserving the space. We also have Bash at the Beach at the high school. They had their casting tournament this summer, and the linemen's portion was on the beach. So they reserved the beach. I believe we have a couple cross-country meets coming up this fall as well. So lots of things happen here at the beach. And the parking lots, and lots of use from lots of visitors. Yes.
Do we charge?
Yes, we do. We do charge people for the use. It depends on what all they're using, but there is insurance. If there's any extra support that we need, like extra police, fire, or anything like that, those fees are assessed to the people that are renting the space. Like the weddings on the beach, everything that they use has to be approved by the fire department if they're doing anything with like heaters or stuff like that. It all has to be approved.
So none of that actually costs us any money.
Correct.
It's just we listen.
Right. Right. And the Amgen tour started here as well this year. Yeah. So. Yeah.
At one point we were talking about putting in a ramp down to the beach.
So.
Is that still in the works? Or are you guys talking about it? Is it on anybody's radar?
We do have it is leveled down to the beach down at the far side. So that is there. It's just with it being a natural environment, it's really hard to have anything permanent because like this last winter we had lots of storm surge. So we lost a lot of our beach. Was it like a 10-foot drop off or something like that, Mike? At one point. So putting anything permanent out here is kind of hard, but they do grade it so beginning of the summer, spring, so we can have easier access and the lifeguards can get down on the beach as well.
And I think we had talked about some intermediary point, putting in some sort of permanent ramp to some point and then pushing sand up to it for the last little bit. It's just a matter of funding, how we get the funding to build something like that. So, of course, we're going to look for grants to do that. We're in conjunction with the Recreation Department on some grant funding. The other thing that we have to do with this parking lot is at least once a year grade and recompact the surface because it is a dirt surface, and as the water hits it and cars drive through it, we get a lot of potholes. So usually sometime in the early to mid-spring, before the services that take place out here, we'll add material back in, grade it, and recompact it. So either with city forces, if it's a smaller size job, although we just sold our old motor grader, so we'll have even a smaller piece of equipment to do that with. Or if, like this last year, it was a rather extensive project, we used a contractor, Sousa Construction, brought in a lot of material, laid down, and actually ripped the surface before they recompacted. You can only rip so deep here because this is all, we would have been standing in the water if we would have been here, 100 years ago or so. This is all landfill here, a lot of rock down below there from the rock, and so once they get it below a foot, they're hitting that rock and it's really not rippable below that point. Council a few years ago, we talked about maybe paving all or a portion of it. It's just a lot of dollars. It's a little over 7 acres of parking lot out here, and to pave the whole thing was hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. either get back on the trolley or we
One
can.
more little quick
Sure.
Where is the boundary line between the state park and the city?
I believe it's,
This is our property.
yeah, this is us, but I believe that there's a gate over down the road
It's
that
near
way.
near that gate.
Yes,
I don't
near
think the
that
gate is
gate.
actually on
Right,
it. I
Road is
think.
actually city.
And then near the base of the rock is the entire rock is state property. So we're gonna go to that fenced area over there. That's our outfall. I'm gonna walk over there, but if you want to get over back on the trolley, you're welcome to do that.
With the bathroom, help with the maintenance. There's a new floor in that bathroom. It gets rid of the smell that was permeating in the concrete, and it also makes it much easier for us to rinse it down. We just repainted them this year also. Makes it much easier to clean the graffiti off when it comes in. Problems with the bathroom is they get used a lot. We're seeing a lot more visitors, a lot more tourism, and we've got a guy that's staffed specifically for the waterfront restrooms.
And then
Starts at one end, he comes around and starts again.
Like painting Golden Gate Bridge.
And then for high use weekends, we've added a second staff person on that rotates with them to just work on bathrooms during on the weekends. So we haven't been to the desal plant yet, but that'll be towards the end of the tour. Maybe we should have started the other way. But our desal plant's over there on across the street from the high school. Which maybe if it wasn't foggy, you might be able to see something over there. We take water from either our brackish water wells, which are our Morrow Valley wells, or our saltwater wells, which line the Embarcadero, and I'll point those out as we drive past them. It runs through the desal plant, which are basically a big filter. The water that's rejected, that's higher in the salts, gets pumped back over here on this pipe. This big white pipe right there is where the discharge goes to. We have a low threat discharge permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We do sampling of the water. The big concern is high salinity. But our discharge is so small, we can't even find the change in salinity in the water. So we'll continue to probably use this for our desal operations, although there's been some talk about combining it with our wastewater outfall and going offshore with that outfall. But for the time being, we're using this. This is the old outfall channel from the power plant. So their cooling water was went in through the intake building across from the power plant, went through the process there, and then came down through a large box culvert, and then discharged at that structure right there. There's a couple of flap gates, big flap gates, that would open up and let the water out. This cable here that runs across the channel was used by the power plant for water quality monitoring. So they had a quite frequent water quality requirement that they sampled here. And now all this property has become owned by the city of Morro Bay. The facilities that the channel and the culvert that goes, the box culvert that runs over the power plant is now owned by the city of Morro Bay.
Did you have to buy it back from the power plant, or did it just
No,
fall back
it
to us?
just fell back to us. Yeah, the land was always ours. They leased that from us. It's just the infrastructure that they put in the ground became ours when a year after cessation of generating power at the power plant.
So it's ours now.
It's ours
I
now.
thought it was 2025
No, that's the power plant itself.
itself.
Yeah. So the outfall and the outfall line became ours 1 year after cessation of generating power.
So it is a legal outfall.
It is illegal. a legal outfall.
I mean, meaning that the regional
It is
water-
permitted, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Is
And
that-
we are seeking permit.
We are seeking to, so there's a few different permits that we have for this. So we have a Regional Water Quality Control Board permit for the discharge of water to the ocean. We also had a Coastal Commission permit for the construction of the infrastructure. So the piping, the seawater wells, the electrical components that go between here and there. That was under an original Coastal Commission permit. That was a 5-year permit granted in the mid-90s that expired in 99 that was that lapsed, that we are looking to reinstate. And we're probably going to a non-substantial issue hearing in August for that, so they're going to reinstate that.
We don't foresee issues or problems.
No, not at all. In fact, some of the coastal staff, this was the first permit they found with it for permanent facilities that had an expiration date. They were kind of surprised themselves that they did that way back then. So. Any other questions? Okay, let's get back on the bus and we'll drive to Anchor Park.
A lot of fun.
There's been talk about moving the desal plant out to the new water station. And so when all this infrastructure, the cost of all the pipes and coming back to town for the infrastructure, has that been, I didn't know what my question. But
We have not studied that in detail, relocating the desal plant out to anywhere but where it is right now. That's on the work plan
yeah,
for
I
this
heard it
next
somewhere
year.
in a conversation. So, okay, but if it's done, then you have to redo all this infrastructure to get the pipes back out here to the outfall. Right?
Yeah, we'd probably tie it into this, we do what we're doing with the wastewater facility, and there'd be some sort of major pumping facility about where the desal plant is right now.
So dig up for the pipes once and put multiple pipes in the ground, even if we don't use it. Then we don't have to dig the roads up, the streets up again.
So was the idea for that, to move it out there when they were talking, when the speculation, was this make this property over here all available for tourism and for?
That was one thought. Not necessarily does it have to move out to where the wastewater treatment facility is. It could move almost anywhere where there's vacant property. It could also, there's a possibility it could stay there and the property could still be redevelopable. We might want to dress up the facility a little bit if we're trying to market that, but we don't have to keep it looking like an ugly steel building.
Project Surf Camp is finishing up their day there. They run their summer camp program for children and adults with disabilities, and so they're just finishing up their camp day today. They did a stand-up paddleboard camp, and tomorrow they're doing a regular surfing program. So.
So we're going to be coming up here in just a little bit on our seawater wells. In fact, there's one right there. That's what they all look like. Like I said, there's really nothing.
There's another one coming up.
There's another one coming
You
in.
can't see them.
It's square concrete with a metal lid on it. And if we pull the lid off, it looked like a piece of pipe coming out of the ground. So they're really not that exciting, but there's 5 of them along the Embarcadero, and they pump water over to our desalinization plant.
That's not there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and then there's one down here.
There's one right here.
Yep.
Is there much maintenance to them, other than just pulling a pump out once in a while?
No, because we haven't run them since the 90s.
Okay, and there's
Oh, you
one right
have
there
it?
and there.
No, we just put the pumps back in them.
Now that I know what they look like. Ah, yes.
And then there's one down by the harbor, right coming up here by the harbor office. Coast Guard and Harbor.
So the water.
So here's the last one.
So I've already heard a couple of comments on the site amenity improvements. Over the last several years, this park's really transformed. We've removed the old benches and added these nice concrete benches. These cleat benches have been added. We put a cleat out on the end of the overlook, which there's never been a place to sit out there in the past. We've relocated the trash cans. We used to be along this sidewalk where you guys are standing. There used to be 4 trash cans in this very small park. We pushed them to the outside. People can actually get up to the railing, not have to dump into a trash can. But the biggest improvement I think we've made recently is this synthetic turf that was installed about a month and a half ago. This is probably the most expensive synthetic turf that we would ever install in a city park because of all the triangles and the smaller pieces. We had to buy basically twice as much turf as actually got laid down. Ideally, there is a pattern to the turf. You want the pattern to be the same on all of these different sections. This particular turf was about $15 a square foot. But what we've eliminated by installing this turf is the high maintenance of the actual grass that's down here and the water usage. So we used to come down here with a push mower and an edger and a blower. Between that labor and the water usage at this park, we're saving $6,500 a year.
My goodness, it doesn't take it long.
And we have to do nothing with it except groom it once in a while. So
And it was awfully trampled.
it's been a nice improvement. We've heard nothing but compliments on it.
No, it looks great.
Is it glued down?
It is weighted with sand. It's stapled around the perimeter and a couple of field staples, and then we fill it with sand.
Huh.
Just enough sand you can't really see it. It's about 2
You
to
mean
3
it's down in between the...
between the blades. It's about 2 to 3 pounds of sand per square foot. We found that we're gonna have to come back and sand it at the end of the tourist season, add a little bit more back to it.
And this is just like a passive recreation area. We don't have really much use besides we have a gentleman that plays music here on the weekends. But other than that, it's just open for visitors, people to have sit down, eat their food, or
It's very highly trafficked. It's nestled between all these restaurants, and there's always sea mammals down here on the dock. A lot of photo ops here. Any questions on this park or other parks on the waterfront? I don't know.
I don't know.
I see something.
I do have just one question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to buy benches and have them dedicated? So if a citizen wanted to install a bench,
I think you're going to see a program come across the PWAB's agenda
okay.
Yeah, real
before the end of
soon.
the year.
So we've had various programs over the years, and we're going to try to consolidate those, pick a standard bench to use and a standard plaque, and then run that through advisory boards and up to city council for
Because I
their.
know State Parks does it, and it's very expensive to get a State Park bench. So, but a
Yes.
lot of people want it.
Yeah, so typically the agencies that I've worked with have when you want one of these benches, you pay for the bench cost plus a lifetime of maintenance, which is usually equivalent to a replacement bench, and then the plaque. I know in San Luis, when I was there almost 10 years ago, it was about $1,500 a bench. And it really didn't deter anybody from wanting them.
And there's a lot of people calling and asking still about benches, and I know there's a waiting list when I talk to Janine.
Yeah, I think there's about 24 on the waiting list.
Waiting for the benches or waiting
Yes.
for the location?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. So the balance is how many benches are benches just for the purpose of a memorial, or they serve a function? I mean, because we could probably, with the number of people, we could line a street with benches, but is that really what we're looking to do? So things like that we'll be talking about with the boards and with council.
All right. Any more questions on the parks and the waterfront?
Well, I do have one more.
Go for it.
All right. I know there's some talk about either renaming City Park Franklin Riley Park, or possibly the park that's down at the end here of the Embarcadero.
Highlands?
Well, past that, there's a little strip up above.
Oh,
that-
Louis Park.
overlooking down. It looks scraggly, but that is actually where Franklin Riley's house was.
Okay.
And so some people are advocating for that. Would the city be willing to take on a new park like that if there was enough interest? And I mean, it would mostly be some plantings and then maintenance, obviously. But it could use some benches. That's what we
It wouldn't come through my desk for that kind of approval.
Right.
If that decision was made, then we'd have to come up with some kind of maintenance compromise.
Yeah,
We'd
so
make it work.
if we get direction, we'll put a park in there.
Okay, all right.
Better
Well, I know
answer.
there's interest,
Yeah.
so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I thought that was a park actually.
It's kind of an informal park. One of the former harbor maintenance workers kind of adopted that area and maintained it. That's why it's called Louis. Some people call it Louis Park.
Okay, I hadn't heard of it.
Okay.
Speaking of that area, between the yacht club and the end of the street here, like Titus Park, there are some orange houses and red houses. Are those private residents?
Yes,
And why do they get to stay there?
because they were there before our regulations developed, not allowing. They pre-exist the city of Morro Bay.
Until somebody dies off and owns them.
Or no, until they get demolished. They can be sold. And they are, I believe, they are vacation rentals. I could be wrong, but I believe they are vacation rentals.
Cool place to live.
All right.
Okay.
Back to the trolley.
Back to the trolley. Be an extra, great. See kids
Yeah.
there all the time. Keep them off the street.
Yeah.
That's good. The tea center's good. Those kids-
Okay, we're gonna go up Harbor Street and drive on some triple layer Cape Seal that we did a couple years ago as one of our methods of stretching our pavement dollars. So it's more of a sealing process, but they seal it 3 times. So they drop a slurry seal, then they go over it with chip, and then go back over that with another slurry seal. So it adds about 3/4 of an inch of wearing surface to it, and it's a very economical way to add life to the streets if they're not too bad. So the streets can only be in certain state of disrepair for that to really work. And we'll probably be looking at doing something with the Embarcadero over the next couple of years because the sewer main in the street will need to be worked on, so we'll be cutting open the entire Embarcadero at some point in time. Okay, I think we can move on and go up Harbor, and then we'll be heading towards Del Mar Park.
How far harbor do you want to go?
Go in so far the line, I see the ramp.
That's right, if we included one of these.
Put some open space in there too, I think, in that area.
What's outside the
Put
city?
some open space area in there.
There's no definite plans at this point. It's all an opening.
Let's take a walk over to the pickleball court. This is the latest thing that we've done here.
I'm gonna catch up, Rob.
Okay. And you hit a wiffle ball. So this is the latest repurposing of underutilized city facility. This was started as a roller hockey rink, I think, late 90s?
Late 90s. Last time we had an organized league was 2003.
Okay. I think there was some pickup games,
Right.
and then it was used for practice for roller derby,
yes.
also. So the Morro Bay Pickleball Association, or their group,
Right.
came to the city and asked to use this facility, and they were setting it up temporarily to use for pickleball on a daily basis, and it became more and more used. They partnered with I can't remember the name of the new.
It's active adults, 55 plus. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they partnered with the seniors and whatever their new,
Right.
what Karen said, their new name,
The active adults.
and raised money and to fund, along with partnering with the city. The city also provided funding for this through our park in lieu fees to convert this to permanent pickleball court. So we added the intermediate fences, painted the entire surface. Well, of course, demoed all the boards and all the roller hockey material, and then painted these pickleball courts. And they're very well used in the mornings, typically for the association, and then they're open for anybody to use in the afternoons. And I believe their plan is to start holding tournaments here, and look for the next expansion of the pickleball universe in Morro Bay. There's some temporary courts that are out there on the basketball courts that are that's a joint.
Yeah, they'll set up the nets for when they have an overflow.
Mm-hmm. And if you come down here, if you don't know anything about pickleball and you want to learn, come down here in the mornings, and Robert and Kathy would be happy to teach you about pickleball and get you playing all the time.
Right. And they were doing lessons on the weekends, every other week, I believe. They were coming out on the weekends, on Saturdays, and doing like clinics, so that you can do that. And these courts, plus the tennis courts, and then we have two reservable areas for barbecues here, are all reservable through the city. So if you want to use a court for a special event or part of the park, contact Recreation, and we'll get you. We'll work on getting permits. We have lots of different things that happen. If we have tennis lessons going on right now, it's our tennis instructor. So lots of recreational activities, lots of use on the weekends. Most weekends this summer, the areas are booked for different events, birthday parties. This weekend is Morro Bay High School class reunions. So just lots of things.
Exciting.
And there are areas, tables and things that are not included in the reservable areas. So if someone wants to use a couple tables.
And is the dog park just over that knoll?
Yes.
You can hear it.
Yes,
So what's left to do here is to add the windscreen, and that's on order, and that'll be installed, I believe, next week. Rodney say?
I think that's what I heard him say, yeah.
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
So similar to what's over on the tennis side. There'll be a windscreen installed, except for in between the two. There's no reason to have one there.
Similar to what the golf course has.
Similar to this.
Right, that stuff right there. Yeah. Yeah. So it won't go all the way to the bottom nor all the way to the top.
Where they're playing.
Oh, and the city also has different types of, we have volleyball nets, horseshoes, bocce ball, croquet, badminton. So if anyone wants to reserve those for their day at the park or take down to the beach or whatever they want to use, we do have those bags of equipment that people can check out and rent as well. They're, I think they're $10 for residents and $15 for non-residents.
On the subject of renting, are the chess pieces at the giant chessboard available all the time?
During the summer,
I forget the exact dates. They're open 3 months during the summer. There are plastic pieces that are available. We open the shed at 7 o'clock and we close it at 5. The wooden pieces.
Only on weekends or all during every day?
All day.
Every day.
yeah,
They've been open now for about 6 weeks, I want to say.
yeah.
And the wooden pieces can still be reserved or rented through the recreation department.
Yeah, through the recreation department. We do have those. And then during the rest of the year, usually on Saturdays, the chess club does open it up for people to use. But if you wanted to reserve it during the week, during the school year, contact the recreation department and we'll get out the keys for you.
Any more questions about pickleball or this area of the park or any of the areas of the park that you want to go take a look at? Kind of the project that's we're looking at doing out here is to do something with the restrooms. Restrooms are original construction, wood frame construction that hasn't held up very well over the last 30 years-ish. So we'll be looking at doing something probably over the next year with that restroom building. It's kind of beyond major maintenance, so we keep it as clean as possible, and but that's really about it as far as doing anything, maintaining it. It really needs to be knocked down and started over again, and the thought is that the best place for a restroom facility? So, or would it be better to locate it nearer the parking lots or some other place on site? And here come the ambassadors.
Okay.
Kathy.
We're on our annual Public Works Advisory Board and Recreation Facilities Tour, so we stopped by here.
So you're slumming.
We're seeing a pickleball court.
Cool, huh?
How come you're not playing?
Well,
We don't have any instructors.
There he
Have
is.
one here, huh?
Grab him.
It's on the fence.
It's on the fence right there.
There it
Oh,
is.
right there, okay. So, what else are you touring?
I think we're going to head down to the Courtyard wastewater treatment plant. We've been down the waterfront, came up here. We'll do Kaiser.
That's why the trolley's here.
Yes.
Okay, you were wondering why it was here. Cool.
Why aren't you here at Saturday at 9?
So some of us play tennis Saturday elsewhere.
Yes, but you
No.
can be here Saturday at 9 and I will teach you this game.
July 31st, pickleball in
I'm
the
open to
park.
that.
But I have bad news for you. If you practice for 5 minutes on Saturday, you will love it. And you'll become
I've
addicted.
played here before, a
Okay.
couple times. But,
It's a very addictive sport.
oh, and I've seen you folks play.
It's a substance in the handle. Gets into your skin. You just can't let go.
Okay, well,
July 31st, though, remember that. All day, pickleball in the park. Pros are coming up from down south, and a 12-year-old pro is coming up. So if you know any,
12-year-old?
yeah, so if you have any kids or grandkids, that's the time to bring them. They can see them.
It's unbelievable.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Some of these
what
kids.
everybody says.
Clinics,
all kinds of things, fun
So
things
it's
to do.
July 31st from
Yes.
9 in the morning till whenever we finish.
9 till in the afternoon. Pickleball in the park. Pros will be here and doing demonstrations and instruction.
Yep.
So please join our pickleball ambassadors here and see what it's all about.
So with Lilac Kaiser Park, these fields get used pretty much almost year round. We have youth soccer, adult softball plays here from March through November. Girls softball, we have our all-star team that's getting ready to go to the California State Games this weekend. Opening ceremonies are tomorrow. They earned a bid to go, so their last practice here. We share the fields with Little League during the summer and spring. We have, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, we have 11 tournaments here on the weekends, which is great because only 2 of them are our responsibility that we put on. A girls tournament, which this year we had 22 teams, 16 teams from outside the area, and then we did a Labor Day tournament. But we have all these people that are coming in, they're renting our field, they are staying in town, so they're contributing to the TOT and going to the restaurants and our different activities. So this field gets used a lot. In fact, I said we have 11 tournaments. I think from now, this weekend through Labor Day, we have a tournament every weekend. So different groups coming in. So this weekend's going to be boys baseball. Following week's going to be seniors, over 55, 60, 70-year-olds. The week after that will be another baseball tournament. Then we have a young adults tournament. So we've got lots of things going on, plus flag football and everything else. So the fields get used from, as I said, pretty much from February through November. So we'll try to give downtime in December. So. And projects that we're going to be doing out here.
I was going to add your thing that unlike some of the tournaments, and this is after talking to a couple of the players, unlike a lot of the tournaments in the valley where the team will pile into a couple trucks or a couple vans and go as guys, these adult softball tournaments that she has, they bring the families because Morro Bay is a destination.
Right.
So the wife and kids are out, maybe watching the games, but they're out cruising the town and spending money.
Spending money in town. So, so our facilities get used a lot. We do our best to take care of them so that they're all up to snuff.
So over the years, we did renovate the field. We did plow down all the grass and flatten them out and replanted.
New scoreboards.
New scoreboards were big. What do we have coming up? We have some more floor surfacing we're going to do in these restrooms. We have some opportunities with new low flow fixtures.
Lights.
The lights are going to be, we're getting bids right now to replace the lights in the field and lighting controls. And of course the parking lot that we're standing on is in desperate need of some repair, probably replacement. But we're doing everything we can to maintain this as a nice destination, a nice place to come and play ball.
And our barbecue area gets used a lot. That was recently renovated as well. Like junior guards will be here on Friday night for their end of season barbecue. It does get rented out. But it's a little tough sometimes. Sometimes the adult softball tournaments and youth barbecues don't always mix. But we do get lots of use in this park. Practices, games, weeknights, local weekends, tournaments.
Do you keep a wish list of things you'd like to get done?
Yes.
Obvious?
Yes, yeah, we do, and we do have a chance, to do it from time to time. Like we did grade the infield over there, because when it does rain, it all drains towards, it goes all over the place. So we did have it leveled, and we put in a box, like a kind of drain, would you call that?
It's for a sump pump.
It's for a sump pump, but we can take that, and it helps us drain the fields a little faster, so we can get back on the fields as quickly as we can, so that we're not having to reschedule games or things like that. So.
Is your wish list on the website?
No, it's not on the website.
How do you promote it?
Well, it's we kind of say, well, we need to do this. Like we will be probably this year when we close down the fields for a couple months. We'll need to replace all the anchors because the bases are starting to get stuck. after time, just with the sandy air, salt air, the bases get stuck, and we've had to replace some bases this year, so we'll have to replace those anchors. So just kind of we have our wish list, but until we have funding, it's a little hard to.
And then the major projects end up in the city's annual budget,
right,
in the capital improvement program.
Right.
Even though we plan for things even beyond what our means are, so that we can keep that running list of larger projects that we'll need to work on.
Does the funding from the events or tournaments here, is that just going to the general fund, or is that something that would go towards like the parking lot?
It's just going towards the general fund. We do have like a light fund, so all our adult softball teams, all our little league teams, and all of our girls softball teams, for each of those teams, a portion of their registration fees or the rental fees get put into a light fund to help us, so when we have to relamp everything, there's some there to start with. It hasn't been added to the tournaments, but probably should be, so that we can again recoup some of that, because a lot of times we are able to use the fields without the lights for most of our events. Adult softball definitely needs it, but yeah. And we have portable mounds so Little League can use both fields and we can use both fields. And Little League has an outfield fence, and that's one of our wishes for the other field, is to have an outfield fence on that field. But again, there's always seems to be something else that requires to be taken care of first. So. Okay.
So kind of the other thing that's out here is we have some city water facilities. So over, you kind of barely see.
It's a little boxy structure there.
Yeah. Those are the city's Morrow Valley wells. So wells number 3 and 4 that are the main feed wells to the brackish side of the desal plant. That's where that water comes from. And then the pipeline comes down kind of just on the other side of the parking lot area down to Park Street, ties into some other piping that ends up in the desal plant.
To what extent is the park? Is the area over here, the ice plant area, is that part of it?
No, it is not.
It's not.
The city's property line is the fence line of the softball field.
Yeah. And it's also not quite city property.
Right, yes.
It's owned by Dynegy.
Right.
So this park, we have a long-term lease on this park for about $1 a year for 99 years. They weren't willing to, in our last talks with them, weren't willing to quite yet part with this property.
How about making it bigger?
Making it bigger was the other thing that we had talked about with Dynegy. So there's some flat area on the other side of the creek there that would be perfect for another field over there that we looked at. Unfortunately, they weren't willing to talk about that, but I would guess if there's anything that's going to happen at that plant, that will be one of the things that we really sit down and talk with them about. What opportunities are there for them to work with the city to provide those extra facilities, including this park and any expansion area.
Any questions?
Yeah. So we have cut back severely on water irrigation practices throughout the city and all of our irrigated properties. Try to maintain the fields here as green as possible. What we've done to counterbalance that, we've actually turned off large sections of irrigation. Everything around the snack shack is off. Everything that used to be irrigated along the creek has been turned off. Everything around the barbecue area has been turned off. And then for probably 10, maybe 11 months out of the year, this property is irrigated with water out of a well over here that came with the Flippo's property. It's technically, it's non-potable water.
Right.
And it's sold to us at a much discounted rate versus our other wells, our other parks.
Who was our last opponent?
Okay,
Good.
yeah. Desal plant.
Okay.
The city's corporation yard or our shop area. So when we during the whole water reclamation facility process, we talk about moving, potentially moving the courtyard, and this is the stuff we're talking about. We used to be a fueling facility. We're no longer in the fueling business because we didn't dispense that much fuel, and the permitting to do just a little bit of fuel is the same amount of permitting if you're selling, you know, thousands of gallons of fuel. So it was very expensive process to go through. So we removed our dispenser islands, and then under where that base is there, that's where our 1,000-gallon fuel tank was that we pulled out, made a 500-gallon diesel tank also. Or maybe it was a 1,000-gallon diesel tank.
So how many acres of land do you need for the courtyard?
So if we were to build a courtyard with our water reclamation facility, we wouldn't build separate buildings for everybody. So this area right here is about 2.5 acres. It's kind of rambling, spread out, not very well organized. If we wanted to do something like this, it would be two acres. I would say that it would be much more efficient than this. So we have restroom facilities. We should have locker room facilities and showers here. You would have the same thing at a wastewater plant. If you were to combine the two, you would combine those two operations. The same thing with admin and office buildings. You wouldn't do separate buildings. You would do one equipment shed. You need that for a wastewater plant anyway. Shop building, you would do one shop building that people would share. So as we move forward with this facilities master plan for the water reclamation facility, that will be one of the options that will be presented as a kind of a joint city operations facility. Not a separate courtyard and wharf plant, but a consolidated city operations facility.
What would you do with this?
This would be part of the 27 or so acres that the city owns jointly with the sanitary district that would be available for redevelopment.
Possibly looking at adding some fields or something like that as well.
Yeah. So there's some of it would be probably redeveloped for commercial visitor serving, but as you get closer to the ocean, it's floods.
Right.
So we probably would have not a lot of success in building based on our visit with the Coastal Commission a few years ago.
So, Rob, is the Morro Dunes RV park, is that on
City property.
It's on city.
It's on city property, and they have a lease for that property.
So the city property is sort of just a gerrymandered.
Well, like I said, Morro Dunes is city property. So it's, if you look at the entire kind of and the concrete plant is on city property. Okay. So this is 27 acres, roughly a rectangle of city or city and district-owned property.
So is the trailer park in the flood zone?
Portions of it are, yeah, which is allowed because the trailers are highway ready. They can be moved.
Here comes the tsunami. Get them out quick. You got 10 minutes.
That over there is storage, and from what I understand, a lot of those, how they operate is people will call ahead and have their trailer moved to their favorite campsite, so they don't have to drag it back and forth to the valley.
That back there you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of it is higher than the land we're on. So as we go into the desal plant, you notice we go up a little bit of a hill where we'll exit the floodplain when we walk into the desal plant because it's elevated.
So what would be the logic for moving it? Why would that be necessary?
Other than to make it more developable, this area.
But this is a lot of land to develop.
Yeah.
But you said what would be done with it.
But you said if you moved it, you would still need the
You would still need some equipment here.
So then it's
like when we move the wastewater facility, we'll need a major pump station, probably somewhere near where we're standing. Because everything flows downhill to this point.
So it won't really be that developable.
Well, it'll be not. I mean, yeah. And like I tell people, we can make things look nicer than these buildings here. This building here, I think, was a gas station at one point in time that got moved onto this site.
Looks like it.
Okay, let's go into the desal plant, which is kind of around the corner here.
That's, yeah, one of the consolidated units, that's
Before they built the there was the recreation, Quantum was there, and that came over there.
I'm not even gonna, if I turn on these lights here, like I said, by the time we get done, they'll be warmed up, so I apologize for the low light levels.
Okay, camera takes care of that.
Okay, good. So this is the city's desal facility. It was originally constructed in the early 90s. The building was, I think, dates to the, it was just sitting out here on concrete. Building was built later over the top of it. And then we added the low pressure membranes in about 2007, 2008. So these big pumps right here, 4 big pumps, are our saltwater pumps. They're the pumps that pull the water over from the saltwater wells that we visited to along the Embarcadero. These pumps have not run for operational purposes since the 90s. We bump them, we turn them over to make sure they continue to operate, but we haven't yet used them for production since the mid to late 90s.
But could we?
We can.
Okay.
We are working with a water consultant to develop a operational plan to put those saltwater wells back into active production if need be. Because nobody works here now that worked here then when these operated.
I see.
We are working on that startup and operations plan. So as we, and watch your step as we go through here, there's piping and I'm not tall enough to bump my head, but somebody might be.
Where do they actually have the desal? Where they, it's definitely seawater.
Yeah, but they're using it now to, they shut off state water and
Yeah.
so it's
So
mostly.
that's with our saltwater wells. So it costs to produce, well, this is in probably 2013 dollars. The cost to produce drinking water from our saltwater wells was about $1,600 an acre foot. In 2013, we were paying $1,600 an acre foot for state water. We continue to pay $1,600 an acre foot for state water, whether we use a drop of it or not. So currently, it makes sense to maximize our use of state water. So we have a 1,313 acre foot per year allocation of state water. We use, on an average basis, about 1,100 acre feet a year. So that extra 200 feet, we're still paying for it, but it's staying over in San Luis Reservoir. And it allowed us to get through the worst of the drought because we were able to draw that out when there was a 0% allocation. We were able to use that water we already paid for.
So they bank it.
They bank it for us.
Great.
These membranes here, these racks of membranes down low, are the high pressure saltwater membranes. So these are the very small straws that we suck the water through. The salt stays on one side of the membrane, the fresh water goes through to the other side of the membrane, gets pumped. There's some calcium carbonate tanks on the other side of the building that we'll take a look at. We add calcium carbonate because it strips the water of everything, and it becomes very aggressive, and you wouldn't want to drink pure water because it attacks things. So we have to add a little bit of hardness to it to make it so that it's not so aggressive of water.
What do you mean aggressive?
Acidic, not really. We need to raise the pH. And now you're testing my water chemistry. To make it more drinkable.
So did they ever use the saltwater wells to
In the
produce
90s,
drinking
in the 90s, for a
some
short, very short time.
Short time.
Yeah, because state water became available to us in the mid-90s. So we, from what I understand, I wasn't here during that time, although I was working for the city of San Luis Obispo, and we were talking with Morro Bay at that time of a joint desal facility. And then it rained.
Of course.
And reservoirs filled,
Right.
and it became less of an urgent situation. So it was used for a short period of time for production. The saltwater wells were used for production during that emergency, during the drought of the late 80s, early 90s, until state water became available. Early 2000s, we added these treatment trains here. These were funded by a health department grant because our Morro Valley wells are high in nitrate from agricultural operations in the Morro Valley that have contributed the majority of the nitrate issues there, and works the same way. Nitrate molecules are larger than the pores in the membrane filters, so the nitrogen molecules stay on one side of the filter, the fresh water comes through, and all the other minerals stay on the other side. So it's very pure water that comes out of these membranes. But they operate at much lower pressure because we're not trying to remove so much salt out of it, so they're much more energy efficient. You know, notice the size of these pumps and motors compared with the ones that drive the salt water through the saltwater membranes. Much smaller. Sorry I don't have the numbers available, but you can see the relative size. I think those are 175 horsepower motors. These are probably like 50 horsepower motors. We could look at the nameplate if there was lights in here.
When they clean them, they reverse pump them.
Yeah, we do a backwash, and then we also do an acid wash to remove scaling, then neutralize that acid, discharge that to the wastewater treatment plant.
Did they discharge that out into the ocean?
To the wastewater treatment plant, the acidic backwash water. And then we have to let the wastewater treatment plant know that we're doing that because we want, it's too much water for them to take in at once, so we meter it out to them over a long period of time. So we have a day tank where that water gets stored, and then we meter it in there, so it doesn't cause any issues with hydraulically with the wastewater treatment plant. Treatment-wise, it's not an issue. Hydraulically, sending all that water, you know, at 600 gallons a minute, gets the operators over there very upset.
Do we need a permit to do that?
No, it's we're just we're a sewer customer of the city.
There we go.
This is an ingenious to keep track of which membranes these come out of. The guys came up with this great sampling tool here that they have to when they're doing their testing, because we have to do water quality testing of all the water that gets produced out of here for both regulatory reasons and then process control reasons. We want to make sure everything's operating correctly. This is the original control room that was sitting out in the open, and you can see it's, you know, like a storage building or a storage unit container that's been converted into a control center. Most of the electrical switching components are in here, so that's what that is. Because when this thing is running, you want to be inside, not standing out here. You want to be inside there or inside the laboratory, because it gets very noisy in here. Okay, we're going to just take a look outside. this far side of the building to look at some of the other ancillary facilities that go with the desal plant. This is our laboratory here, this little building that we built inside here.
I'll move, don't worry.
Change in the lighting situation.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of the finishing, well, both ends. We have the finishing tanks, the calcium carbonate tanks that add the hardness, a little bit of hardness back into the water before we put it in the distribution system. Because what it'll also do is leach minerals out of our piping if we don't. Add a little bit of calcium carbonate, make it a little bit harder. This big cylindrical tank right here, a metal pressure vessel, is a sand filter that was used when the saltwater wells are in operation. There is one of the saltwater wells that is very high in iron that causes fouling problems on the membrane, so we need to run it through the sand filter before. And from what I understand, they never worked all the bugs out of it. So that'll be one thing that we will be working with our water consultant on, is getting this fully operational. Because we have a lot of sunk costs in this infrastructure and don't want to make good use of it. Motor controls. You'll notice the pedestals that things are built up on. That's the top of that pedestal is 2 feet above the 100-year flood elevation. So we have a 2-foot freeboard requirement. When the building was originally built, we only had a 1-foot requirement. So the floor of that building is 1 foot above the 100-year floodplain. And when we added on these new facilities, had to make it 2 feet above the 100-year floodplain.
But that doesn't take into account ocean rise, right?
No, it doesn't, because FEMA doesn't use that in their model for regulatory purposes. So sea level rise is estimated at 5 or 6 feet in about 100 years. That's really not the issue that we'll deal with in the short term. It's the storm surge that could potentially be a problem, probably a little bit further west of here. Not that far west, only a few hundred feet. So that's kind of the desal plant. It's not too exciting, but and it's real quiet when it's not running.
So we've got a regular maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, we run the plant once a month to do our water quality sampling and to make sure everything's operational. And then we run it for about 2 weeks to a month during the winter state water shutdown period. So when the state water is doing maintenance on their facilities, we need to provide our own local water.
Now the problem with the eelgrass in May is nitrates.
I'm not sure if they ever determined what the 100% what the problem is. It could be too warm of water.
I know I ran into some guys working planting eelgrass out there.
Go this way.
There's a lot of root area control.
Yeah.
Okay, well, You said this was originally outside and they built the building over it?
Uh-huh.
So were you talking about just that office building was outside or all this equipment?
All this equipment was out. Not all this equipment was here when they first went into operation.
But by outside, you mean there were no sidewalls and just had the roof?
No,
Nothing.
completely outside.
It was just,
Wow.
Yeah, it was built as an emergency project.
Oh,
Much like the Cambria.
Yeah. And then in emergency operations, we would not use cell phones. We'd use our two-way radios. And then we do telemetry.
Also telemetry off of that, and the radio station has.
The radio station has, yeah.
something on there.
The Sparrow Bay Community Radio has their antenna out there too.
Emergency services?
Not their primary one, but it can be used by us in emergencies.
And then there's a low power AM station here also that broadcasts a message. I can't even remember, I'm sorry, I can't remember what the frequency is, but there is a low power AM station
It's
here.
like to fishermen and things like that.
It's for like if there were some, I think it was funded through the Diablo emergency program.
that emergency thing that goes on the radio, on TV?
Yeah,
Yeah, is that
yeah.
what it is?
Tune to whatever the frequency of it is.
So, Rob, we noticed that we skipped the wastewater treatment plant, but we were gonna just take a vote to see if.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is if wastewater treatment plant's over on the other side, it's getting toward the end of our
Yes.
planned time. I'm not opposed to opening up the gate and going in there if you want to go in, but we can also go in there when weather's a little bit warmer, and we can do tours with as few of one person or as many as we want it to be through there. So.
And I have actually seen it, so I don't know how many others have also seen it, so I'll leave it up to the group to vote. So how many are in favor of going to see it today, now?
I can go anytime. I love it. So.
Okay.
Who wants to get on the trolley?
Okay. So give me a call if anybody wants to see the wastewater treatment plant, or Bruce Keogh, or treatment plant or wastewater division manager. Like I said, from as few as one to as many as people as you want to bring out, we'll set up a tour for you and go through the wastewater treatment facility. It's so fun.
Have you done it?
Yes, we're going to head back to the office now.
No, I think we're going to adjourn to our next regular meeting, which for the PWAP board will be next week, next Wednesday, and I'm not sure for Parks and Rec.
I don't think we're having one.
Oh, August.
August.
August. So, meeting's adjourned.
Okay.